Hello, I'm Valerie Owens, chair of the Biden Institute at the University of Delaware. Today, I have the privilege of introducing Governor Chris Sununu. Governor Sununu was first elected governor of New Hampshire in 2016. He was reelected in 2018, 2020, and 22. Governor Sununu is the second governor in New Hampshire's history after John Lynch to be elected to a fourth term. Thank you, Governor Sununu, for joining us on this episode of All Politics is Personal, a program where we introduce the public to the person behind the politician. Anyone can research your policies and accomplishments, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here today to talk about you. Tell us, if you will, about your life. Tell us about growing up Sununu.
Boy, that's, yeah.
Oh. Are you a native? You are a native, right?
Yeah. I grew up in Salem, New Hampshire. Technically, I was born in Boston because I
was born in Boston.
Yeah, that was the closest hospital. St. Elizabeth's was there. My dad was a professor at the time at Tufts University, and so the closest hospital was Boston. But grew up and lived in Salem, New Hampshire, which is right on the border of Mass my whole life, and until about high school, actually. My dad goes and becomes the White House Chief of Staff after being governor.
I read about that.
Yeah, and that was hard. I mean, just because I was a Salem kid. And I'm number 7 of 8 kids. I have 6 older brothers and sisters. They had all gone to Salem High. They all been Salem Blue Devils. And then right after the 8th grade, it's like, no, we're moving to Washington. And just me and my little brother, because we were the only ones left in the house, picked up and moved to the Washington area, which, as you know, is a whole bubble and different world unto itself. And that wasn't fun. It was really hard.
Where'd you go to school there?
Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the magnet.
That's a pretty good school.
Yeah, you had to take it. It's a public school. At the time, they called them magnet schools back in 1989. It was very new. You had to take a test to get in. It was completely based on meritocracy. I didn't have any friends down there anyway, so I figured, yeah, why not? I'll go to any school they want me to go to. It was a pretty good school. And
I have no friends, so I'll study.
Yeah, yeah, right? We can all be nerds together. And that school was great. But again, as you know, Washington is a weird thing. So I would say that my older brothers and sisters, they grew up with my dad as a professor for a long time, and then for 6 years as governor, and then they go off to college. My younger brother and I had a very different Sununu experience. We had to get dragged to Washington for 4 years, and that was tough.
Well, I never lived in Washington. I would just go visit. My brother had a house down there too, so I would go and see him. When you were in school in Washington, what were you the class clown, the jock?
Oh boy, what was I?
The teacher's pet? What were you?
Great question. I don't know what I was. So I would say this. Everyone kind of knew my dad was that guy in the White House or whatever. I didn't really have any friends to go in. I didn't know anybody on the first day of school, like literally nobody. I'd never met anybody. And so
but you were cute and dynamic.
I don't know if cute was the word I would use. I had this weird flat top haircut at the time, which was, I suppose, in style in 1989. But so I guess if anything, I was probably very shy, pretty introverted, but I was known by everybody. So that was a weird dynamic. I played some sports. I was never, a great athlete, but I played sports and did my thing. That high school is very tough because it's like 40 miles away from everybody. Like folks from all over Northern Virginia would come. Yeah. So I didn't really go to school with kids in my neighborhood per se. I went to school with kids towns and counties away sometimes. So the whole dynamic was very weird. It was not growing up in Salem, in my Salem, New Hampshire with my buddies down the road, and we played basketball after school every day. It was such a different experience. So if anything, it was such a fish out of water thing. I don't know if I couldn't even tell you how I was perceived by others other than that politician's kid.
Well, how about your younger brother?
My younger brother, it was hard for him.
Did he go there too?
No, he was 5 years younger than me, so he was in like the 4th or 5th grade.
Oh, he's a kid.
Same thing. He didn't really have any friends, thrown into a different school. And, a lot of military families. A lot of families have to get up and move at times, but I think it was probably pretty tough for him as well. So again, just because everyone knows you because you're dad, but nobody else. It's a very, very weird situation. So it was fine, but I can tell you the day after I graduated high school, we got back in the moving truck. It coincided, the 4 years of high school coincided coincided with the 4 years
In the White
in
House.
the White House. So we got into the moving truck the day after I graduated and headed right back to the same house I grew up in. I went off to college after that summer. My brother went back to school in New Hampshire, and we did our best to resume life as normal as Granite Staters in the live free or die state.
Well, that, I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but that experience, I mean, that built your character.
It built a lot. Look, if anything, it told me I never want to be in politics. I never want to be in the public eye. It was really hard that way. And so for a lot, and I don't want to say I carried some bitterness, but probably a bit of bitterness. I know it's hard to reflect on your own bitterness, right? But I just didn't want anything to do with public service, even though my parents were so adamant that you always have to serve. It's something we grew up with, right? My parents always said, you got to give back. You can run for office, you can become a school teacher, you can become a nurse, you can volunteer at the food bank, you can donate your time to a nonprofit, but you have to do something. And if everybody does that, then the entire community is built up. So it was something that was instilled with my parents. I knew that whatever I was going to give back to was not going to be running for office. I wanted nothing to do with it for the longest time.
So politics was in your DNA, but was not in your heart or your mind.
That's it. That's a great way to say it. Serving was. I always appreciated that, but the politics piece of it, I quickly shunned. And I never thought of it again until maybe a lot of people, until I had kids. Right? Things change when you have kids. My kids were going to public schools in New Hampshire, and we have great public schools here. So proud of our public schools. But the experience wasn't, I was seeing it was very different than my experience, and not in a great way. I was running my own business at the time. And, one thing about my parents, they instilled in me, you have to be a rule follower. If you don't like the rules, work the process to change
school?
the
Was your mother a nun?
We were Catholic. We were Catholic. We were definitely Catholic. We had that Catholic piece in us. And so whether it was Catholic guilt or whatever you want to call it, you followed the rules. Now, my business at the time was kind of a mid-sized business, and we followed every rule. And the Granite State, the live free or die state, boy, all the rules and regulations and processes and hoops we had to jump through, we did. But I thought, boy, if this is really hard for my business, that was fairly successful at the time, it must be impossible for a small business. And I thought, this just isn't the live free or die thing, right? We're supposed to be a state of limited government, local control, not big government, big control. And so that combination, my kids going through school and not having the best experience I thought they could, my business getting just beat up on sometimes, I thought unnecessarily. And so I guess out of selfish interest, and I think that's an okay thing. I said, I'm going to do something different. I want to do something different. That flipped the switch. And I said to my wife, I think I do want to run. I think I could make a difference here. I'm a big believer in selfishness. I know that sounds weird. When you go to the ballot box, I tell people all the time, be selfish. Vote for whatever is you believe to be in the best interest of your family, your business, your kids, whatever. Do what you think is right. Do what you think is going to better your situation. And if everybody does that, you're likely going to get the best candidate out of it. Don't do it because someone else told you to. Don't do it because, you didn't do your homework and you're just going to listen to the other side, or you're being swayed by. Just do a little homework and do whatever is in your heart. And in that way, I said, well, I want to help my business and my kids. And if I'm doing that, I'm helping other businesses and other kids and other opportunities. So that was the motivation that kind of flipped the switch that said, you know what, maybe there is an opportunity to do this and be something positive in other people's lives.
That sounds more like confidence than selfishness. And also
a little bit, yeah.
And to put a more positive spin on it, not that you need me to do that for you, but it's ego. And ego, in the best sense of the word, is knowing what you do well and then looking to other people to help you and seek out what you don't do as well. And so it's a wise woman who knows what she doesn't know and moves to change things.
That's it. And one thing, I'm not great at everything. I'm very far from it. I
believe that.
The one thing I'm pretty good at, I appreciated and it was really when I started running my own business. I found that I was really good at putting teams together, mm-hmm. and getting the best out of them, right? So that I could make as the CEO and president of the company I was running at the time, I could make the best decisions, but it wasn't because it was my idea or anything. It was like, how do I get the best out of these folks? And it was just the skill, and it was pretty good. And that, if you talk about what are the leadership qualities you need to be a good, effective leader or be in public service, to be a good dad, whatever it is, it's getting the best out of everybody else, so that as a collective, you're moving forward. So I've always had either a knack for it or just really lucky. I don't know the difference.
Was your brother elected before? You
Yeah.
you an older brother.
Yep.
And believe me, I know it's not easy raising an older brother. So we have a lot in common with that. Was your brother in elective office before before you decided to? And what was the first foray? What did you do when you were going to change the world?
Good question. So my dad did just to take a little step back.
And your mom was an activist.
Okay, let's take a real step back. People think my father or my brother got me into politics. No,
your mom?
My mom was the first one to be elected. Now, when you have 8 kids, what do you run for? School board. And that's what it was. And she would bring us to when you have 8 kids, guess what? You also have to go to the town library and sit in the corner and color or do your crossword puzzles while mom is at the school board meeting. And that's just what it was. It was service. My dad was an engineer. What did he run for? Planning board. He wanted to help design and plan the town that his kids were growing up in. He was an engineer, so he thought that would be best. He later ran for some other seats in the State House and then ultimately governor. So he's becomes governor in the 80s and the White House in the early 90s. Then he leaves. My brother runs for Congress in the 90s and Senate in the early 2000s, and that ends in 2008. And then in around 2010, I run for something called the Executive Council, very unique thing here in New Hampshire. We're about 250,000 people. There were 5 of us, worked directly with the governor. Great position. I think all states should have an executive council, by the way. Great checks and balance. But I would work with the governor pretty consistently. And after 3 terms, which is 6 years of that, I said, I'd like to sit at the other end of the table. So that's when I ran for governor. And I did that for 4 terms, which is 8 years here.
Yeah,
we're one of the only states that you have to run every 2 years, even as governor.
And then what?
Well, now what? I guess for the last 6 months, I've been trying to find a job. I've been a good Uber driver. I deliver pizzas on the weekend. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'd love to be an Uber driver, by the way. I've come to the conclusion I think I'd be a really good Uber. I'm a bad driver, but I think I'm pretty good at conversation. And I always find when I'm in an Uber, the conversation's terrible. So I figure I could be a good Uber driver. But the past few months, I'm doing some private equity stuff. I'm doing some board stuff. I'm doing some private sector. I still do the media.
You're still going to figure out what you're going to be when you grow up?
I'm still figuring out what I'm going to be when I grow up. Yeah. It's kind of my ADHD. Like I'm I have a lot of energy. I'm very good at jumping from one thing to the next. It's actually one of the real skills you should have as governor. As governor, 1 minute you're talking Medicaid, the next minute you're dealing with veteran services, the next minute you're dealing with corrections, then state police, then a constituent service to get a pharmaceutical put onto your Medicaid formulary that is not being allowed by the federal government, and then you're going to talk to the federal delegate, whatever it is. So you got to, as governor, unlike other jobs, you got to be able to bounce very quickly in about half-hour to 45-minute chunks, but give things your real attention and time. And I guess it's the ADHD is actually really good for that, I found out. So that being said, I'm trying to do a variety of things. I'm not someone that's going to sit in an office and do one job 60 to 80 hours a week, or at least not right now. I got to take a break from that.
When you were growing up in this politically dynamic family, 8 kids, did your mom and dad, did they ever have sayings that you still remember to this day, like your father saying this or your mom saying this? Like my father, your word is your bond.
Yeah.
My mother saying, I don't care, I don't give a damn what all the other girls are doing, Valerie. You're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, were there things that are ingrained in you?
Make your bed. Yeah, I know, Mom. My mom was really big about making. You know that book, Make Your Bed? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom, I'm convinced my mom came up with the idea originally. But she always said, you got to start your day off accomplishing some task.
What? Now, where are you? Oh, you're number 7.
I'm number 7 of the 8.
Yeah.
Now, the older ones were all older. And I think, as number 7 of 8, we were on the end. I grew up in more of the 80s. Some of my brothers and sisters were more 70s kids, obviously. And they had a very different experience with my parents. They were not strict, but, they were Catholic and you didn't wear jeans to school and that sort of thing. When I, got to high school, I didn't even see my parents really in the morning. I could wear whatever I wanted. It was like, oh my God, just get to school and take care of yourself. It'll be fine. So it was a very different experience. But if there was ever a saying, it was you got to, I don't know if it was a saying, but we just always grew up, all of us knowing you have to give back somehow. That was it. And it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't pounded into us. They lived it with their own example, right? Even when my mom had the 8 kids, she's raising the kids, she's doing the school board, she's on this volunteer group, she's, dealing with being the first lady at the same time. So she's doing all the stuff that a first lady has to do. It wasn't, it was just what they did. They were always moving, always doing something. And so I don't know if it was a saying that was emulated. It was just, well, that's what you're supposed to do.
You live.
Yeah. So you didn't even think about it.
Did you have, with the 8 of you, are you still around in the vicinity? Or
we're almost all back in New Hampshire. We all went somewhere. I lived in Boston for a while. I lived in San Francisco for many years. I was a civil engineer for a long time. I was an environmental engineer for about 12 years.
So when you got out of Thomas Jefferson High School, you went to MIT.
And then from MIT, I became an environmental engineer, and I was cleaning up hazardous waste sites. Some in Boston, and then I moved to California, did that for a long time. And my brothers and sisters were all doing their thing, and we're all very different. One was an interior designer, one was...
Is an eldest a boy or girl?
This is the funny part. The 3 oldest are girls. Now, I can't...
Reverend mothers.
Yeah, so I can't imagine my dad in a family of 5 and he's the only male. I just can't even picture that because he followed up with 5 boys. So the 3 oldest are girls, the 5 on the bottom are boys.
Right?
Yeah, I guess. So it actually turns out it's a really good balance. It's a really
do you all get together still for family events?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad lives over on the seacoast. My mom passed, but my dad lives on the seacoast. And so we'll all get together at my brother's house or my dad's house. My house is too messy. So we pick somebody else's. Yeah, except my bed. My bed is made. I'm pretty insistent on that. We all get together fairly well. I think 7 of the 8 are still in New England. So we're all fairly close. Yeah.
There's nothing like brothers and sisters. You can't.
Oh, there's nothing like brothers and sisters.
They remember everything.
For the best and the worst of what they have to offer. And there's about a 20-year spread between my youngest brother and my oldest sister.
God love your mother.
Right? So, that means you have kids in the house for almost 40 years. Right?
God love
because my son, my brother was there till he was about 18. And so for 40 years, my mom was raising somebody. God bless her, right?
Yeah, God bless her.
She's in a much happier place now. God bless it. She's in heaven and relaxing without having to make lunches and dinner for my dad.
What role would you say that faith and religion played in your family? Or in you, or to the extent that you want to even talk about it?
It was always consistent. It was always there. But we weren't a spiritual family. We went to church. We were good. We were kind of that New England classic Catholic. We went to church and we did our hour and all that. And we were very disciplined about God. And there was no bad language in the house. And you would never, use the Lord's name in vain or anything all of that. But that was it. It was kind of regimented there. And everyone had their own path from there. So before I got married, my wife grew up without any religion. And she saw me going to the Catholic Church, and she's like, well, that's pretty interesting. So she became Catholic, not because I said you need to be Catholic to be married or anything. She could have been anything she wanted. But she really found a connection at the time we were in California. This is the other really interesting thing. I found California Catholics are very different than New England Catholics. I don't know what Delaware Catholics are like, but it's just very different in terms of the expectations, the connection with the ministry, connection with the priests and all that sort of thing. So it was a great experience growing up, but it was very regimented. And I guess when you have a family of 10 that you're trying to manage, everything in our house was just very regimented, but it was okay. It was great, actually.
That's all you knew.
Yeah, we all got along great. I had a wonderful childhood. I've come to learn we didn't have much money, but I never knew that.
Sounds like our family.
Right? My parents did a great job making us not feel wealthy, but we had what we had, and that it was fine. And you never really wanted for anything more. Later on, when I found out, at one point my dad was making $60,000 a year as governor, and he had $135,000 in college tuition bills because he had 4 kids going to college. My oldest sisters went to Tufts because they could go for free. He was a professor there, so that was great. But at one point, he had kids at Stanford, a couple at MIT. Those were expensive schools at the time back then. Everything's expensive now, right? But I never realized, and he never, they were always very good about, keeping everything on the up and up.
You may not want to hear this, but we have a lot more in common than.
I'm sure.
First of all, I was born in Boston, and I
no kidding.
didn't get to live
Yeah.
there long.
Do you know what hospital you were born in?
Yeah, Boston Lion Inn.
The Boston Lion Inn.
And
I don't know what that is. Is it still there?
No, it's Women's Hospital, I think now. It's called. Yeah.
Is it the old Brigham and Women's?
Yes.
Oh,
But
yeah.
when I was a little girl, I thought it was Boston like Lion. The Lion Inn, and it was LYIN. So, and we never talked about money. We didn't have money, but we didn't know we didn't have money.
Right.
We're Catholic school kids, but again, we were not. I would say we were not religious. We were more spirit. We never said the rosary together at night,
Mm-hmm.
but we went to mass every Sunday, and we
Very
did.
simple.
Would not eat meat on
Oh, no,
Friday,
definitely
and we
not.
said our prayers, but we were never, with the crucifix all over the house.
Right.
But I think being a Catholic is a culture as much as a religion,
Very much.
and
yeah.
so we followed the rules
Now,
until we didn't.
When you walked out of your room, did you? Because we didn't have the crucifixes everywhere, but we had my mom had a couple pictures of like Mary, and I found them kind of spooky as a kid. Like you'd walk out late at night,
And there's a Blessed Mother.
Yes, and you're like, oh, there's that picture again, and she's staring. And I love Mary; it's wonderful, but I wish she looks like in the church. And I used to say, Mom, can't we get a better picture or
Can we
better
get a
painting?
better photo of
Yeah,
her?
scaring me, and she thought that was terrible that I would even say. But I'm like, I walk out of my room to, use the bathroom at night, and I get freaked out. So I don't know. So I learned very quickly: do not just. It's Mary. You let it go.
Just let it go.
Let it go.
We have to let this conversation go, but before we do, I want to ask you a couple rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I'd love to be an Uber. I'd like to drive people. A cab driver, an Uber driver.
One word to describe yourself.
Energetic.
Favorite movie?
I'll go Rocky. I'm a 70s guy.
Favorite music?
Pre-1980s country. I love old school country music.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Invisibility. Because sometimes you just want to disappear.
And your birthday is November 5th, which is my birthday. And you are married to a woman whose name is?
Valerie.
I'm telling you, I think,
Right here. Right here. There's a connection.
Thank you for being here
you.
for
This is great.
All Politics is Personal.
You bet.
Thank you to our partners at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. And remember, all politics is personal.